Okay, welcome to First Universalist Church of New Madison. First week of September, Fish Sunday this Sunday for your offerings if you care. The need is getting greater and will become greater and greater. I keep reading more and more about the Medicaid cuts that are coming, and that's going to affect not only people in nursing homes and the local hospital, it's going to affect people who are getting Medicaid payments. What I was reading is it's getting harder and harder for people to even sign up for Medicaid because the paperwork is getting so much more complicated. And the supposition is that's intentional. The way you cut the Medicaid rolls is make it hard for people to sign up. You don't kick them off, you just make it so they can't sign up. So, sad situation that we're in. Any announcements? Okay, I don't know when Derek's coming next. I have to talk to him and see, because he's on a regular basis usually.
Oh, we did have our boiler inspection this past week and it passed.
Oh, okay.
So you'll be getting anything once the insurance takes it to the state. If you haven't already. I think it went out, it was actually due June 30, but they're always running a little behind, so.
Well, you know, I have the certificate here already. And I paid the state. So I wonder if that was like the insurance company that came in and did it.
It was the insurance company.
Okay, so we've already got the state.
They'll reimburse us that.
You can hang that up in the basement.
Okay. And you can tell it's fall because the door is closed.
Yep.
And we're going to have to tape that up. And I guess I'll go ahead and do that. I don't know if Chaz is, I haven't seen much sign of him coming around much.
Yeah.
The trash can's not been full of twigs or anything else, so. And the garbage can's not emptied. I usually empty the garbage can every week. So, but we'll have to pick those things up. Seal the door closed. Okay, we're doing, if you can tell by the picture, Bizarro World, and I've had some complaints that we're too much in politics, but I have to say, and there's nothing I can do about it. If you study history and look at what happened in Germany in the 1930s, if you try to hide your head and pretend that everything is fine and don't do anything about what's going on will keep going on, and it will not only go on, it will get worse. So it's something that we have to be aware of.
Certainly our government people know that they should be looking for some of those same indicators and everything. So,
well, that's part of what's going on, and that's part of what happened in Germany is the people who have the ability to change it, Congress, is supposed to pass laws and say this is our prerogative, the president can't do this. And they have been cowed into submission. They are threatened with primaries. There's like 30% of the country are really strong, super conservatives, but they control the Republican Party now. So anybody in the Republican Party who says, I don't like what's going on, like Lynn Cheney or Massey from Tennessee, they're cast out. They're forced out of the party. And everybody else, I can't get over, and I'll probably show you some more pictures eventually, the cabinet meeting where these people, it was just like North Korea. They went around and effusive, stupid, blind, unbelievably ignorant praise. You're the best person ever, and you're the best leader ever, and we put your picture hanging out in front of the labor department so everybody in the city could see it. I mean, if that's like some kind of Saturday Night Live thing,
they do a lot of that to keep their seat too.
They do that to keep their job, because you don't get a job unless you do that.
Yeah.
That's like a third world dictatorship. It's not the United States of America, but. And so we're going to investigate that. That to me is the idea from Bizarro World. Superman, if you remember, in 1958 or 60, the writers created Bizarro World where everything was backwards and upside down. Right was wrong, good was bad, and we'll go through some of those things. That's what kind of stimulated this. So I'm trying not to be overtly political, but I'm also not going to shy away from what we're doing. And we'll try and bring in, I've noticed Derek always has a quote in his thing, so I'm going to start trying to do that. The one I picked up today, hate is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And I've heard various attributions. They said Gandhi said that, they said Mark Twain said it, and nobody really knows who said it for sure, but it doesn't make any difference. It's the saying, it's the concept is what's important. All right, so that's what we're going to do is Bizarro World today, and here's Bizarro Trump World if you want to take a quick look at it. In the distant space, there is a bizarrely shaped planet with the bizarre-looking people governed by a real bizarre code. Me, Bizarro Trump Robin Hood, me take money from the needy, poor, and I give it to the rich. And Bizarro Trump code, us do the opposite of all earthly things. Us hate beauty, us love ugliness. On my planet, that's exactly what I do. I like you guys. Okay. Our opening prelude is Send in the Clowns, perfect for Bizarro World Sunday.
Send in the clowns.
Send in the Clowns. It's not very funny. All right, our chalice lighting, and we're concentrating, or I guess I'm finding out as I look at what I did, that I concentrated a lot on children this week. And that's because there's so many pictures of children on the news. Children in Israel, Palestine, being orphaned, sitting alone, their cities being destroyed. Children being separated from their parents, ICE, masked people who are indistinguishable from kidnappers in the street with an unmarked vehicle, no badges, camouflage, faces all masked up, separating parents, illegal parents, and taking them away and leaving the children in the streets. It's hard to believe that this is going on in our country. A child's journeys far from home. Fearful and brave, in need of safe harbor, guided by this chalice, may we seek to understand the causes of flight. Like the comfort of a candle flickering in a window of darkness, let us welcome this child into our home with warmth, nourishment, and love. Would we not want the same for our own child, lost and alone in a strange land? First hymn is 126. every blessing. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Our affirmation is a little bit long, but it was really meaningful, so I'm going to take the time to do it. A stone's throw, a war zone faith, and Army chaplain's reflection from Afghanistan. As I ride through Kandahar City, Subdistrict 9, I see a naked, dust-covered child playing along the road. That is not the strangest thing, but when he picks up a large rock and hurls it at the truck, I wonder aloud, what the hell? Who lets their kids run around naked throwing rocks? What kind of place is this? Years of war and violence have produced a perversely unique system where hurling rocks at others is a legitimate sport. It is easy to become cynical, even contemptuous of those kids who throw rocks. However, we must not allow our anger to numb our compassion. In a place like this, compassion for a dirty, rock-throwing kid is all that keeps us human. In our entire world, from our first breaths, was a closely circumscribed existence defined by poverty, war, death, dirt, and dust. How would we perceive the world around us? How different would we be? Maybe rock throwing would not seem so strange. My son has grown up seeing men in uniform as the good guys, not a threat. When his bunny rabbit died, he cried for a day and buried it in the backyard. That is as close to death as he has ever been. He takes a hot bath every night. He has ice-cold water, juice, and soda for the taking. His world is secure, reliable, and good. He is happy, safe, and loved. The kid with the rock has never known the world my son takes for granted. His world is not secure, not reliable, and not good. It is dangerous, uncertain, and rough. Still, he knows how to throw rocks. It is one certain thing in an uncertain world, so that is what he does. Understanding this, my response is compassion. Compassion for a child who seeks to hurt me. Compassion for a child who is no less a child of God than my own son. I cannot change his world, but I must try to understand it. Otherwise, a kid with a rock is just one more kind of enemy instead of the person he really is, a kid who, like my own son, only wants to be happy, safe, and loved. Take those words with you and those thoughts with you. Compassion for a child who seeks to hurt me, compassion for a child who is no less a child of God than my own son. And I saw again today news reports, I saw it on Facebook, of Israelis being interviewed in Israel about how Palestinians are not real people, about how all the Palestinians in Palestine deserve to die because they killed Israelis. The compassion of Israel is evaporating. It's dripping away, and they are becoming what they have held up to the world as the face of evil in the past. They are becoming that themselves. Okay, joys and concerns, which we just talked about. One, Israel and the assault. And I've got a picture here. Anybody recognize this picture? That is a 14-story apartment tower in Palestine that the Israelis just blew up. A complete 14-story apartment tower. They said Hamas had an observation station on the top of the building. The Israelis are systematically destroying the entire Palestinian, if you look at the pictures, every house, every building, every hospital, every water station, everything is being destroyed, it's being leveled, and that is, now you will hear the Israeli citizens say that is the plan, is to move all the Palestinians out to someplace else, and we will colonize it and make it part of Israel, saying that that has been Israel's from 2,000 years ago, and then we have to figure in if Trump wants to make it the Riviera of Gaza.
I don't think he's going
It's just, we are living in Bizarro world that this is even accepted, and no one has been able to do anything about it. And perversely, it even gets worse, because anyone who complains, anybody who says the Israelis are doing genocide on the Palestinians is called anti-Semitic, and there are laws passed, and people are fired from their jobs. You're not allowed to say anything about it. It is thought control 1984 all over again. Who would have ever thought that would happen? Who would have ever thought the Jews of America would be able, and they don't all tolerate that. They have always been, the history of Judaism in America has been a liberal religion that stands for peace and freedom for everyone. It's not all Jews that say this. This is what is happening to the Jewish state, kind of like what is happening to our state. So, Kyiv, 800 and some attacks last night from Russia. Now they are able to hit the actual parliament building in Kyiv, and there was damage there. They don't know that, haven't found anybody hurt or killed yet, but they haven't been able to go through the ruins. But they are launching so many missiles that the Ukrainians' defense are just not able to handle all the tons of missiles. So any kind of protestation that we are looking for peace, or anybody is looking for peace, is a false assumption. The war goes on as usual with no resumption. Terrible news, Kenny related, and maybe you've heard about it, a suicide in Greenville last night. 14-year-old or a young boy committed suicide. That's just a terrible, terrible thing, and that's the problem. When I was on the rescue squad in Pleasant Hill, we had a 13-year-old that committed suicide, was mad at his mother. 22 was leaning against the wall, so he grabbed the 22, ran out, sat down by a tree, and shot himself in the head. He was dead. Kids 13, 14, 15, they think they're indestructible. They think they can shoot themselves and then say, oh, my mom is really going to be sorry when I come back. They don't realize you don't come back from that. I really believe they believe that they are indestructible, and it's an act. It's like cutting your toe or scratching the car or kicking the cat or something else. It's something that shows how you're the depth of your anger, but it's not a permanent thing. Suicide is a permanent thing. I mean, it is unbelievably sad for that family. and for the other kids in Greenville who have to go through that and hopefully they are given honest approach and honest ability to talk about it and honest ability to understand what's going on. Floods out east, fires out west. The universe is upset with us too, pretty much everywhere. So, anything else? I guess we'll light a candle for all of our absent friends. Hopefully everybody is in good health. Heard from Margaret, an email, really a good email. We need to respond to her. And I want to encourage people. I can't stop talking about what I'm talking about, but Derek at El Dorado gives a really good sermon, and his sermons are uplifting and positive. So if you can't come here, go there. There are other places to go. Miami Valley Unitarian Church is still in existence. I haven't heard much about what their services are like, but one of the important things we have to remember is in times of trouble, community is what you need to hang on to. You need support. You need a group support from somewhere, whether it's friends or family, or if it's your church family. You have to find the church family that fits what you need, and then you support the other people in your church family and let them help support you. And for all the people who aren't here, who hopefully are doing well, if they could let us know, we would be more than happy to pass that along. All right, children's story. This is a little history, kind of an overview of what's going on with what is happening in society. I found this really interesting because it puts kind of a perspective on it and kind of explains it a little bit.
Let's say like Uber. The idea like, oh my God, instead of the taxi, it's all on your phone. And then all of a sudden when enough people show how amazing it is, boom, the entire crew moves over. And the old system, the taxi system is gone. So you're watching an old system being essentially dismantled or having to come down. At the same time as we're taking off on these new technologies to build the next system, we're in the middle of that. Right now is smack in the middle of that in our era. But we've also seen this in American history before. There's been 3 previous junctions where Americans have found themselves in this exact place. Now, that's not to say it's common. Like, it's 80 years ago, the last time we saw this. And they tend to come in these 80-year cycles. But what's amazing about this is they have bursts of unbelievably widespread innovation that lasted 25 years. The last big one was coming off World War II, 1945. 80 years ago, America was on a very similar period. We basically were watching the essentially dismantling of the old world that had been working pretty well, the economy and societies of the West, and then there had been a crash, and you run into the Great Depression of the 1930s. Now what that was the old system of running the economy just wasn't working. And so what happens is you watch these junctures in American society, we get super polarized. For example, there was an America First movement in the 30s. We were on the verge of violent conflict in America. And then you had FDR and the kind of New Deal coalition that came out of the Depression. And they started to get traction. But anyhow, we had to resolve this political tension in America. And frankly, we had to do it in the world because the world also was going through this juncture. And so from 1945 to 1970, we watched the great post-war boom. Many people call it the high point of global capitalism. And you built this crazy economy where you did many things that were completely different than the previous year. Tax the rich at 90%. You watch incredible investment in public infrastructure like the interstate highway system and building suburbs. You basically watch the GI Bill and education, building institutions for higher education, expanding it for the boomers. That all happened in 25 years. The Great Society, the whole thing. 25 years. And then we went in the 70s. It started kind of getting all along in the stagflation, oil shock. But here's the point. Old system had to come down, super conflict around it, and ultimately the building of a thing that was dramatically different than before. We've been through that before. And funny enough, like you say, if you go another 80 years back, we did it again.
Okay, that gives you kind of an overview. I'm kind of a history buff, so I'm going to give you an oversized. But what the point is, and I think the important thing to remember is what's happening now is not specifically created by Donald Trump. the situation that we're living in was created by the economy and by civilization in this cyclical thing that he was talking about. He mentions three. The first one was the Revolutionary War, a 25-year period in the 1700s, when everything changed and everything had to adapt to a new situation, the new situation of America, democracy. The second one was the late 1800s, 1890s, was the second period of expansion. That was another period of transition. There was a big crash before that, an economic crash, but they opened up the West, and everybody who wanted it could get 150 free acres of land out west. That created a tremendous expansion boom. After the Civil War, railroads connected the country from one end to the other. It used to be you had to take a 3-month trip around the Cape of Good Horn on a ship, or like a 7 or 8 week trip on a wagon train to get from Ohio to Oregon. With the advent of the railroad, all of a sudden it became 3 days. Think of that. 3 days was considered flash. I mean, it was considered, man, get there in 3 days. Now people complain if they have to take an airplane for 4 hours. It's a complaint. And the change we're seeing is half of that 4 hours is in the airport going through security. It's not even flying on the plane. The plane gets there in an hour. It's getting onto the plane and getting off the plane that causes the trouble. So that's the surrounding thing that we're talking about. That is the pace of change is going quick. We're right in the middle, like he said, where the change is happening faster and faster and faster. And what are we going to do about it? How do we adjust to it? That's what I'm talking about, with where we need to stick together. We need to have community. We need to try and understand what is going on. We can't get lost in that maelstrom and just lose our bearings and say, I give up, I don't know what's going on. That is the worst thing that could happen. One of the things that I brought up here that I thought this was really interesting, and part of the Bizarro world thing, is that heroes were made into villains and villains were made into heroes. The interesting thing is this was off a conservative website. So what they're saying is heroes were made into villains. This is the kid that shot and killed 2 people at the demonstration in Wisconsin. He came from Wisconsin, or came from Minnesota to Wisconsin, and shot and killed 2 people. Became a hero of the right wing, and people donated money. He's got a podcast. He's making a living off of that. He is called a hero for killing 2 people. And Anthony Fauci is called a villain because he tried to save people he told people to wear masks. He told them to close down churches, close down public gatherings, trying to prevent people from being killed. The conservatives in the Bizarro world say Anthony Fauci is the villain because he saved lives, and this other kid is the hero because he killed people. That's how crazy things have gotten in the situation that we're in. And I have to throw this one in. Does anybody recognize this picture? That's a cabinet meeting. It's a special cabinet meeting on the future of women's health in America. What is the one thing you do not see in that cabinet meeting?
Women.
There is not one woman at that cabinet meeting. That room is packed with people and not one woman. That is another example, prime example of Bizarro world. So. Okay, so let me just go through a few things and throw them out. Conservatives are anti-communist. They rail against socialism all the time. Does anybody understand what socialism is, what classical socialism is? Mussolini was big for socialism. Hitler was big for socialism. The economies of Sweden, Finland, Norway are big on socialism. What that means is the state, the government, the people own the means of production. What has just happened with the company of Intel in the United States? Intel is a chip producer. Who just bought, well, they didn't buy, who had it given to them? 10% of the value of Intel is now owned by the U.S. government. The U.S. government now owns 10% of the value of Intel. That is nothing more than classical socialism. You'll never hear them say that, and that is the prime indicator of Bizarro world, where whatever you do is given the name, kind of like 1984 or Brave New World. Whatever the name is has no relationship to reality, And the more you talk about reality, the farther away reality gets. Another example. Who saw the example of when they had the demonstrations in Washington, D.C.? A man was arrested for throwing what at an ICE police officer? He threw a Subway sandwich at a police officer. The Justice Department of Donald Trump indicted him on a felony charge of assaulting a police officer with a threatened 16-year prison sentence for throwing a Subway sandwich. Unfortunately, Jeanine Pirro, who was appointed the prosecutor of Washington, D.C. by Donald Trump, brought that to a grand jury to have him indicted. The grand jury said, what? Forget it. That's stupid. You can't indict somebody for throwing a Subway sandwich at somebody. And that has happened in more than one case. Jeanine Pirro has tried to indict 4 or 5 demonstrators who were standing, and they say they are accusing them of pushing the police and trying to send them to jail for 5 or 6 years. The grand jury is saying, up yours, that's not realistic, and we're not going to bring charges against these people. 5 or 6 of the attempted charges have been stopped or dropped by the grand jury. That is the one remaining saving grace. The grand jury system is inherited from old England, where the people still have some say, where the dictator can't run rampant over everybody. It has to pass through the people. The same thing with the jury system. For good or bad, 12 people, your peers, convict you or acquit you of whatever the crime was that you're accused of. The worst one so far, Florida. Anybody know what happened in Florida last week? The Secretary of Health in Florida has said no new mandates, no mandates of any kind. Came out really proudly and said, nobody can tell you what your kids have to be vaccinated for. It's in most school systems all around the country. Your kids have to be vaccinated for polio, have to be vaccinated for measles, have to be vaccinated for mumps. The reason for that is not only for their own health. There is a certain number of people who are immunocompromised, kids who have genetic problems. They can't be vaccinated. They are helpless in front of an infection unless everyone else is vaccinated. There's something called herd immunity. If 95% of the population is vaccinated and safe, then the chances of that disease taking off are slim, and the people who are not vaccinated will be safe. The people who do not believe in vaccinations have been taking advantage of that, and unfortunately their advantage is running out. In Texas, they've had over 1,000 cases of measles in some religious groups that don't believe in vaccination. 3 kids, 2 kids and an adult have died of measles. This is what's going to happen in Florida if nobody is vaccinated, or if only a few people are vaccinated. The sad thing is they are saying you don't even have to be vaccinated for polio. And to any of these people, they don't remember. I don't even remember. Polio was existent when I was a kid. I got the polio vaccine, the Salk vaccine. That's when it started. But I don't have any visual memory of the iron lungs, but you can see pictures of kids stacked like cordwood in an iron lung because their muscles aren't strong enough for them to breathe. That's what polio is. Polio is not dead. It's not disappeared. Polio appeared in Afghanistan. Why? Because the Afghanistan Taliban didn't believe in vaccinations. The kids didn't get vaccinated, and polio reappeared again. If they don't have vaccinations in Florida for polio, we are going to see polio again. Somebody's going to come in as an immigrant from Africa or from Afghanistan or from somewhere and start spreading polio. And polio is extremely contagious, and there's no treatment for it. I mean, all you can do is try and survive it and see how you can do. It is ludicrous. It is bizarro world that we are giving up an easy, safe, effective protection from polio and sacrificing our kids and other people's kids. These just go on and on and on. 475 Korean workers in Georgia, electric car manufacturing plant, 3,000 acres, billions of dollars invested. Everybody's very proud of getting the Koreans to come in and invest. 475 of the construction workers, many of them were from Korea and trained how to build that plant. They're all being shipped out. You think there's 475 people in the hills of Georgia who know how to build an electric battery plant? I mean, what are these people thinking? It's bizarro world. They say they want jobs for America, so they bring a plant to America, and then they don't let them finish the plant. And it's like the agricultural workers, they say Americans, well, you heard the promise, Medicaid, if you want to collect your Medicaid, you're going to have to go out and pick lettuce, or you're going to have to go out and pick celery, or you're going to have to go out and pick apples. Nobody is doing that. Nobody will do that. No Americans are going to do that kind of work. So it's a bizarro world. You say you want to put Americans to work, but Americans don't want those jobs. Another one, it's hard to rank them. Where do you put them? The Nobel Peace Prize. Our president says he's lobbying for the Nobel Peace Prize in Norway and in Sweden, calling the governments there, saying, I want to be nominated. This is the guy who just bombed Iran and saying he wants a Nobel Peace Prize, saying I stopped 7 wars or 8 wars or 10 wars. It changes every time you listen to him. Nobody can figure out what wars he's talking about, and none of these wars are actually stopped. The Israeli-Palestinian war is still going on. The Ukraine war is still going on. All the conflicts in Africa where different countries are fighting each other, they're still going on. North Korea has not surrendered its atomic weapons. North Korea, let's go there. Did you hear about the SEAL team during Trump's first administration when he says he knows nothing about it? He sent SEAL Team 6 to North Korea to plant a listening device to eavesdrop on Kim Il-jung. The SEAL team was not able to complete because the fishing vessel came upon them when they were coming up to the shore. So what did SEAL Team 6 do? They killed everybody on the boat, every one of those sailors, and they were just innocent fishermen out fishing, collecting their things. So they did not complete their mission, but they killed all the people on that boat. And then Trump says he knows nothing about it. You think SEAL Team 6 was sent into Korea without the president's approval? Or did he just forget? Once we're on boats and killing people, I'm sure you saw the pictures online of the speedboat that was blown up in the Caribbean Sea, accused of being drug runners, accused of being full of drugs. The normal procedure in that case is you send the Coast Guard, you stop that boat, you search it. If you find drugs, you arrest the people on the boat. The new tactic is we are declaring war on people who we say are drug runners. Do they have any proof they were drug runners? There was 11 people on that boat. Does it seem logical that if you're running drugs, you have 11 people on a boat? Wouldn't you want to have more drugs and less people? It's just incredible. And that everybody has said, and everybody who is a logical observer, that is an act of war to send the military after a boat that you do not know. And we're not at war with Venezuela. We have no proof who they were. We have no proof that there were drugs on the boat, because when they blew the boat up, there was nothing left to salvage. We are becoming close to a military oligarchy where the president can do whatever he wants. The president can snatch somebody off the street and have them disappeared. The president can blow up a boat in the water that nobody knows anything about. The president can send troops into Washington, D.C. or Chicago. Do you want to compare statistics? Which are the most dangerous cities in the United States? Jackson, Birmingham, St. Louis, and Memphis had the highest murder rates in the United States in 2024. All of them in red states. Is there any question of sending National Guard troops there? Mississippi, Jackson, they sent troops to Washington, D.C., which has a lower murder rate than does Jackson, Mississippi. The troops are going to some place where there is less murder than the place that they came from. It's a bizarro world. It's so obvious that it's a bizarro world. It's like when you look at the Superman comic. There's no question of who Bizarro is. There's no question of who the crazy person is. And there's no question when you look at this, and yet people will tell you to the face the sky is green, or this is not happening, or I don't believe this, or this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's incredible. I talked about it before, and I should have put a picture in the White House Rose Garden. Remember Jackie Kennedy's Rose Garden with the grass, the plants, the affairs they had there, completely paved over. There's nothing left of it. It's nothing but a concrete patio with a bunch of lawn furniture on it that came directly from Mar-a-Lago. He has recreated the Florida retreat for rich people at the White House. It's the Library of Congress. The person who is in charge of the Library of Congress has been ousted because the Library of Congress has information that says the United States is not the perfect country. They want to pretend that it is. They say that slavery, and some of these people actually say literally out loud that slavery was a good thing, that taught people to read and write. It taught people to have a trade. It taught people to have an ability. And plus, they wouldn't have been able to survive without it. Just incredible flights of fancy or justification that doesn't make any sense at all. Totally bizarre world. How can you say slavery? Well, actually, the people who said slavery was a good thing were in the Civil War. They were known as the South. That's why they succeeded. And that's their statement was slavery was a good thing. And there were only a few occasional bad apples in the slavery thing. Everybody knows that's not the truth. Heroes made into villains. We talked about Fauci. They fired the person who was in the government financial thing because she claimed 2 primary residences. Do you know who else has 2 primary residences?
Trump.
3. No, not Trump, but 3 of his cabinet members.
Okay.
The Secretary of Housing, Secretary of the EPA, and the Secretary of Transportation. All of them are claiming 2 primary residences in different places. They're claiming a vacation house as a primary residence, and their house that they're living in is and you want to know who has 3 primary residences? Ken Paxton, the secretary or the assistant, the attorney general in Texas, has 3 primary residences. So it's bizarro world again. What's sauce for the goose is not sauce for the gander. These people they think they can do anything they can. They can do anything they want by presidential fiat. All he does is sign an executive order. The latest one, let me know the latest executive order. He has changed the Department of Defense to the Department of War.
Yeah.
These are the people who said we don't want to be in any foreign wars. We are sending military destroyers and attack craft to surround Venezuela, to threaten Venezuela. We're blowing up boats that supposedly come from Venezuela. Venezuela sent 2 of their Air Force planes to fly over an American ship. Trump threatened to shoot the next ones down that fly over. Basically, he is pushing, and this is the same thing if you look at the history of Germany and Hitler. It is exactly the same thing. You threaten, you threaten, you threaten, you intimidate, you push the boundaries, and sooner or later you actually pull the trigger, and not pull the trigger on a little 11-person speedboat. You pull the trigger on a big one, and then you say, well, they started it, and we're going to finish it, et cetera, and then you're involved in war. So, let's see. I told you we had the picture of the White House meeting on women's issues with no women. West Bank, annexation and the end of 2 states. If you notice, the Israeli government is now proposing to put a new neutral zone down the middle of the West Bank. That would end completely and permanently any idea of a 2-state solution. And that made a little bit of the news, but I've not been able to find a lot of information on it. But it is the same thing. They want to re-inhabit Palestine and the West Bank, all of Palestine, not just the West Bank and Gaza. They want the whole thing with the Palestinians pushed out. Their main problem now is nobody else wants the Palestinians, so it's a question of where they're going to push them to and how they're going to force them out. But you can tell because anytime the Israelis say there is a safe zone and you'll be safe here, they bomb it anyway. And people have moved back and forth, and they're living in tents, and even the tents are bombed. So over 64,000 Palestinians have been killed versus 1,500 Israelis during the 700 days ago that the Palestinians did a attack on Israel, which is terrible and horrible and should have never happened. But 64,000 does not equal 1,500. And that's what the Israelis they are being told, and they are telling us that that's the justification. Because that happened, they have every right to take back all of the land. Okay, what we're talking about is adapting to sudden change. As I said, Trump is not the instigator of all this. He is merely a symptom of what is going on. We're in that crossroads where change is happening. If you looked at cell phones, look at cell phones when they came out 10 or 15 years ago. A little flip phone, you could dial a number, or remember the brick phone that was the size of a brick that you had to carry around. Now we're in a cell phone that is like a computer. It has more power than a computer. The punch card computers that we saw back in the 60s when we were in college. Everything is changing so fast we can't keep track of it. Like he said, Uber, the whole business of taxis is going out of business because people are getting Uber, because people are using that for their income. They are driving the car and then doing it on an independent basis. The same thing is happening with cell phone service. It's happening, the changes that are going on are just multiplying, and they're going faster and faster. The problem is, what do you do to deal with that? So the suggestions I found are, number one, give some thought to crisis planning ahead of time. Try to be aware of what's going on in the society around you. Try being aware of what the changes are. That's what we're trying to do here, is point those changes out. Acknowledge your emotions. It's a scary time. It's a time of uncertainty. Don't hide your head in the sand and say that's not the case. Acknowledge that and seek support. Support from a community-based support. If you need to, call a professional. Do counseling. Now, part of the change that's going on, you can go online and get a counselor appointed to you who matches you. They will run through the algorithm, and you say what your likes and dislikes are. And I don't know what the price is. I don't think they're real expensive. But if somebody needs someone to talk to, that person is available 24/7. You can do it by computer, you can do it by phone. Help is out there, but you have to know where to find it. Take a step back, reevaluate your priorities, be aware of what's important to you and what's not important to you. Gather your thoughts and be aware of what you can do about what's important. There are demonstrations every week now at Eaton at the Circle, or at Greenville at the Circle, and Eaton at the courthouse. All you have to do is go there for an hour and hold a sign just to let people know that you're aware of what's going on. There's a group in Eaton in Preble County called GRID, Republicans, Independents, and Democrats. They meet every month. The one meeting is in the afternoon for people who are that are free during the day, and the other meeting is in the evening for people, like they alternate. The other meeting is in the evening for people who work during the day. Republicans, Independents, and Democrats are just people who are worried about the situation that's going on. They get together, it's a support group, they talk, they plan, they do their meetings, they have speakers come in, they try to figure out what they can do to help prevent the changes that are happening. Do what you can and offload what you can. If there's something that you're being asked to do that you can't do, then don't do it. Don't take on more than you can do. Don't feel guilty if you can't do everything. Don't feel guilty if you can't give that much money. But please be aware of what's going on, and please do what you can do. There's no such thing as certainty, so you have to find certainty for yourself. Our brains crave certainty. If we didn't know where the enemy tribe was lurking, or where the lion had its lair, we would soon be transitioning from looking for lunch to being lunch. Focus on what is certain in our lives, and this very process can help calm down our emotional and stressful responses to uncertainty. You can make a list of what's predictable. You can make a list of where you're living. Is that safe? Is that secure? Your family and friends, are they safe and are they secure? Hobbies that you have, these are all things that can be certain in your life. The world can feel like a lonely place, so stay connected. That's what I encourage every week, to find a community. It doesn't have to be here, it can be anywhere, but find a community that you can join and be supported in. And I added my own, maintain a sense of humor. You have to be able to laugh about this stuff and not take it too seriously. The only constant is change. That was first said in 535 BC by Heraclitus. Change is nothing new. Change happens on a cyclical basis, like we talked about. Everybody has gotten through change, so we need to be able to have the confidence that we can get through change and we need to be able to help manage that change. Okay, comments? All right, offering, this is the first Sunday, so this will be Fish Sunday, if we can donate anything to help those people who are in trouble. And we're going to Hill Darktown Strutters Ball, great one. Closing hymn is 87. And that is Nearer My God to Thee.
Let's just do the first 3 verses here.
Good. Nearer, my God, to Thee. All right. Keep the Chalice Flame Burning by Adam Slate. Be kind, be brave, be just, be merciful, be hopeful. This is how we keep the chalice flame burning until we are together again to light it anew. Okay, postlude, people will say we are in love. People will say we are in love. All right, our obligatory horse picture for Bizarro World. I don't know if this was, I can't be a real horse, but it was a pretty interesting picture, so that's what we're getting for Bizarro World. It didn't say that it was fake, but I can't imagine a horse actually being that muscle bound and still being able to move, so it's pretty funny. All right, we'll leave a candle lit for all those who are absent in person, but not absent from our hearts and minds. And remember, a kid with a rock is just one more kind of enemy instead of the person he really is, a child who only wants to be happy, safe, and loved. Okay, that is it. We have donuts and coffee, and we'll hope to see you next week.
I saw one of these plates in Greenville.
Oh, really?
On a car, so I wonder if it was her. Do you think Chris Behe
Yeah,
did that to us?
if you saw them in Greenville, that probably was
Well,
her.
it was on a car, and it was either that or something very, very close to it.
Yeah.
It was like a station.
She's had it for quite a few years.
Tim, I'm not gonna be with you next week.
Okay.
We're gonna go over to Delaware to the fair and watch some horse races.
Okay. They got good races there.
They do, yes. I was watching some of them this week on the website, and I saw Marjorie had a winner, that Lightning Frenzy.
Lightning
Racing.
Frenzy.
What was that, Finley or somewhere up north?
Some state race, yeah.
Yeah, it was sort of like a free-for-all or something, and opened, it was only $750 purse, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But
Well, Lightning's been racing for quite a while.
yeah,
He's
it
usually
might have been like
second-
Signature Series.
That
or
might have
something
been.
like that.
He usually is second and third. He hasn't won that.
Yeah. But you know, I noticed there was one race, she had a horse, but the trainer was Scott Ferguson instead of O'Mara. I didn't know she was with
She's
us.
sold. I don't have any left anymore because Hurley retired him. The chick magnet,
Yeah,
we sold him,
Okay.
and he's gone to somebody else. And then, what's his name? The other one, she's basically sold him for like $60,000 or $70,000, but she kept it. Rick told me she kept a partial interest in him.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's why there's a different trainer,
I see.
but why she's still following him,
Yeah.
which I thought was interesting because I'm completely out of it, but she maintained a bit of ownership there.
Yeah.
So I told her if she's got any more she wants to sell shares on,
Yeah.
I'd like to stay with her.
Yeah.
So far I haven't heard anything, but she's having, her sister
I mentioned this to Tim.
died in Florida. She had to go to I forgot to do it too for Joys and Concern. Rick had surgery. He had a hernia surgery this week.
Oh, really?
So her husband had hernia surgery, and then the next day she had to fly to Florida for a funeral. So she's got stuff packed in there pretty good.
You know about Bizarro, you had that, you talked about Gene, is it Green? Gene, the talk show host is now prosecuted for. Piro.
Yeah.
Janine Piro. Anyway, she.
She's an alcoholic. I mean, there's all kinds of stories about her.
Well, she's,
drunk all the time.
well, that's too bad, it's sort of like,
She's just, if you watch Saturday Night Live, they her and her.
Oh, yeah.
well, you better stop messing with, Christy Nolan because she's already got CBS.
Yes.
You read all that?
Yeah, no, they can't edit it.
That was her way of thinking that about another 16 million is what she was.
They're taking over the Brave New World. I mean, they're taking over all the media, and they're not taking them over in directly. They're threatening them and forcing them to toe the line and do what they're. You hear the other thing? He's going to go to. There's some public. Oh, the tennis match. Wherever the tennis courts are. U.S. Open. He's going to go to that, and the radio, TV station, CBS, or whoever's covering it, was told not to do what? It's people who.
They block it
They're
out.
block the blue.
Well, J.D. Vance should have done that. They booed him. What's his name? Columbus?
Yes.
Yeah, they booed him.
They are asking us about too, about screwing couches and stuff.
Yeah,
I remember when Trump went to, he went to the Kennedy Center and got booed there. They don't hear any more of that, so.
well, they'll have to throw people out there because he knows that now.
There's
He's
hardly-
president of the board.
There's hardly anybody, they said that
Trump.
the Kennedy Center, they said there's, for the upcoming things, all
Well, you
left
can't-
wing people pulled out, there's no more presentations of the right wing, thing like cats or whatever. There's like 20% attendance, it's like the place is gonna be empty.
But it doesn't, use that Daniel Kennedy Center Award, that he hasn't already picked the people.
Yeah,
Some
so,
Ford Street and some others.
yes.
Well, anyway,
He's gonna award himself a Kennedy.
for a while there, in 2000, his first term, he didn't even hold it each year because he was pissed at. So, but anyway, the ultimate in Bizarro, I didn't want to interrupt you, is throwing a sandwich at a policeman getting charged with felony, but he's one of 1,000 people that tear the hell out of a Capitol called insurrection, and you get pardoned. So you don't just get prosecuted, it costs the government probably $5 million in prosecution charges, but then you turn around and you pardon them because it has something to do with you.
You fire the people that prosecuted him.
And you
They
promote
do
them.
their job.
Right, but you're not being political because what's her face, Pam Bondi said at her hearing that she was going to depoliticize the Justice Department. It sounds like she did more of it instead of less.
It's pretty obvious as it goes on your face.
I mean, truly, what's the arrest of little thing? Pardoning over 1,000 people, only in insurrection. And now, you know how pathologic the Congress is in terms of processing anything, because they actually enjoy peppering every person they interview now with saying, who won, and the vote has to go,
I didn't talk about Kennedy, I forgot to mention him.
I think he's on his way out, I really do. But I think it's only from public sentiment. Public sentiment, I think is going to get rid of him, I really do.
Well, I don't think it's gonna get rid of him until kids start dying in Florida. Because Trump said he's still subversive.
The last interim election was 98.